Yo, this is Joel Davis,
And I'm Gracie Davis,
and this is Greater Than Real Estate.
where we go deep to find out who you really are beyond real estate.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm super excited about these two right here, Michelle and Cody Abner. I'll let you read their bio.
Okay, so we're just going to start off with Cody and Michelle Abner are the absolute dynamic duo. Residing in Burleson, Texas, Michelle and Cody have been married for over 15 years and both share a commitment to transforming lives and homes. Cody, the driving force beyond Big Tex Renovations, began his journey in 1998 by constructing his family's log home in Minnesota. With over 21 years of expertise in interior and exterior renovations, Cody officially launched Big Tex in 2007, driven by a passion founded on honesty and integrity. His commitment to quality extends beyond construction. Michelle's partnership provides clients with expert guidance in interior design. The entire team takes pride in every project, aiming to turn clients into cherished members of the Big Tex Renovations family for life. Michelle also brings her dedication and passion to the real estate industry as a real estate agent. With a keen understanding of the real estate market and a commitment to maximizing home value, Michelle guides clients through every step, from necessary repairs to staging and professional photography. With over a decade of industry experience and background in film, television, and marketing, Michelle adds a creative touch to the real estate process, making her the ideal advocate and guide for first-time home buyers, seasoned pros, or those selling their current homes.
Boom. Wow, that was a mouthful right there. That was great reading right there. So, I mean, that kind of answered a lot of the questions. We'll kind of dive deep into it. Who wants to go first, Cody or Michelle?
Hey, you pick me.
All right, we'll go with Cody.
All right.
So you grew up in
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
so
Minnesota.
Give us kind of a background of how you grew up in Minnesota, how you got into construction, and then how you met Michelle.
All right.
Oh, I saved him
Hold on.
from the tundra.
How long do we have? Okay, so I'm going to make it quick.
The quick non-Minnesota story.
So born and raised Minnesota my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And no idea I wanted to ever be in Texas. Had no idea I was going to move. I wanted to be an airline pilot growing up. And so I grew up around airplanes my whole life. My dad built experimental aircraft, but we didn't have a whole lot of money. And so when we built our log house, it was I was in 7th grade and going into 8th, and we peeled the logs, we picked them out of the woods, we nailed them in place, we did everything, just my dad and I. And so since I'm the youngest of 8 and the only boy, there's 2 older brothers, but they weren't there.
Okay.
Wow.
But the point is, it was that's how I got into the construction industry. And it wasn't by choice. It was, I didn't do sports. I didn't do anything other than just working on this house. And so when my dad, as a teacher, when he had off in a different school district, I would be forced to take off as well and work, because that was it. And so I didn't even get to live in the log house. So we lived in this unfinished basement, roughly unfinished basement.
Like mole people.
It looked like an outhouse. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
And I wish I had an image to show you, but it looked like an outhouse. So you would walk down the stairs, and that was it. And you would go into this 3-bedroom, 1-bath home, and 7 of us lived there. And so, but the point is it was just, I learned a lot because my dad is a jack of all trades, everything, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, so on and so forth. So we did all of that. We even created our own trusses on the home, and to save some money, and so it was just one of those things that it was kind of forced upon me without wanting it. You know, I didn't grow up and be like, I want to be a contractor. But yeah. So I mean, that's what I did. All the way up, and then when I turned 16 and got a real job, I begged groceries. So paper or plastic was my phrase, and so after that, one of the biggest things in my life is God and the Lord, and so I got saved at 18 and ended up moving in with my sister down in southern Minnesota, so about 4 hours away, hour west of the Twin Cities. Well, then at that moment, I started doing barn roofs, these 60-foot long sheets of steel and with no harness, screwing steel onto these buildings. When you're on
Oh
top,
my gosh.
you could stand on the whole roof and it would shake. And that was for the first 3 months after high school. And so, but I was doing full-time college at the same time. And so I was working full-time, doing school full-time, but I was paying for it myself. And so through that, my sister and brother-in-law started a company, Windows and Siding, and just I became their first employee. And they went from nothing to number 135 in America, in the top qualified remodelers of America. So,
because of you, right?
Yeah. I was the guy that at 19 had my own crew. I was only making, like $16 an hour. But back then in 2003, it was decent money. It was okay. But, we were working 12, 13, 14-hour days without drive time, which was usually 3-4 hours. Because Minnesota's a small state. There's about 5.5 million people in the whole state. In DFW, there was 7. Right, just within an hour radius. So
that's nuts.
We would drive 3-4 hours just to go to work. And so,
dang.
So I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, God, I've got a job. I stopped doing school after 2 semesters, and ended up getting a house at 19. It finished by 20. Guy from my church was like, "Do you want a house?" I'm like, "I don't." Why?
How expensive was that house again?
$142,000.
Wow.
But what was really cool is I learned a lot. Like, I didn't know anything about real estate, right? I didn't know about a lot of stuff. But I did the exterior myself. I did hardwood floors. I put in-floor heat. I did all these upgrades, which is not normal. You don't go to a builder that's just a spec house builder and go, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and do the floors. I'm going to go ahead and do all this stuff." Nobody would do that. And so, but this guy did. And so I was able to do a lot of upgrades myself, working that crazy full-time job on top of doing the work on the home. And so after the house is done and everything, I'm like, okay, now I have a house. Now I have the car. It wasn't great, but it was still a car.
Yeah.
And but I had a job, and I'm like, all right, Lord, where's my wife? And God told me I wasn't ready to be the leader of my household, that I needed to go to this internship down in East Texas. And I'm like, that's dumb, because I have all these plans, right? And I'm still trying at this time to do a refi on my house, because it was a crazy time back in 04, 05, 06, 07. Real estate was booming. Yeah. Right before the 08 crash. And so my house went up $20,000 in the first year, and I'm like, man, I can finish my basement. I can go buy an airplane, and because airplanes were a lot less back then. Yeah. And start my career in aviation by paying for myself. Well, anyway, that went a different direction, and I went to school, and that's where Michelle and I met, is in East Texas. So that's it, man. That's kind of a quick abbreviated story.
And then she couldn't get rid of you, right?
She couldn't. I mean, she couldn't.
Wouldn't leave me alone.
No.
That's awesome.
It was a journey. Yeah. Definitely a journey. And I got to sell the house before the crash of 08.
That's great.
The house value I sold it for $169, and right after the crash, it went to like $112.
Have you ever looked back on it to see how expensive it is now?
Oh yeah, all the time. It's like $210,000. That's it. Wow. The market's different in Minnesota. And it hasn't changed. The tree's still there in the front, and
we'll drive by it when we go down there sometimes to look at it.
It's a reminiscent moment of this is where it began, you know, and this is I learned a lot. Houses don't come with air conditioning up there typically.
Yeah.
Tough.
So it was just, I mean, there was one moment where, so we had a youth band, and I was a singer, the lead singer of the youth band, and one time we were practicing, so the windows were all open, and it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and 2 of the band members, the drummer and the guitar player, actually lived with me in the unfinished basement.
Nice.
Living the bachelor life.
Living the bachelor life. It was amazing. And but there was this time where the doorbell rings, and I go down, and they say, "Are your parents home?" And I'm like, "No, this is my house." And they laughed. They said, "For real, are your parents home?" I said, "No, I own the home. I just had it built." And they're like, "Oh, well, we just had some calls saying that it was loud coming from your home." And I said, and so they just laughed, and they said, "Okay, just keep it down." But
that's funny.
It's just, again, new.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing with real estate. Even when I sold it, I didn't know I had to pay realtor fees and commission and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm expecting this big check.
Yeah.
Right.
And I get $9,000 and I'm like, I called and I said, what is going on? And they had to explain. But, it's just, again, I learned a lot from that experience in itself. So
That's awesome. What about you, Michelle? What's your story? We know you grew up in DFW.
I did. I grew up in Weatherford, Springtown, Parker County area.
Nice.
Yep. In the country. And I was homeschooled most of my life.
Okay.
I was a theater nerd. And so that was like all I did was I lived in theater.
Yeah.
And so I went to school for film and television.
Yeah.
And
after homeschooling,
Yes, after homeschooling.
You mean they don't teach that in homeschooling?
after you graduated your kitchen.
Yes. Yeah. In my bedroom. I got my diploma and they're like, good job. And so I really wanted to go into film and television. And actually I wanted to be an FBI agent. And so I went to Washington, D.C., hung out in the Pentagon for a week and hung out with the FBI agents and everything. And
Very similar to film and television.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Totally.
the total opposites
Yeah.
right there.
Totally, right?
What?
And because I always loved like history or I'm nosy. So I love to research everything. And so apparently I was like, well, I mean, that's perfect for being an FBI
Yeah.
agent, right? And so I'm like 17, 18 years old in Washington, D.C. in the Pentagon. And like they bring the FBI agents in and they're telling us like, okay, well, this is what you have to do to be an agent. And, you don't get to be an actual like secret agent until I think they said like 27. Well, when you're 17, 18 years old, I'm like, I mean, that's forever away.
Yeah.
Long
I'm
time.
like,
Aw.
screw that. And then they're like, oh yeah, and by the way, don't plan on having a family.
Ooh,
They're like,
Mm.
you will marry the government.
that's scary.
So I was like, okay, so you're telling me I don't get to be an agent until I'm 27, and that's forever away, and I can't have a family. And so I walked away and was like, okay, new direction. I got to figure this out. And so I'd actually gone to a church camp on the same property as the school that we went to. And they were talking about this film and television school. And like right then I felt God just tell me, this is where you're supposed to go. I'm like, okay. So I graduated, showed up on campus, and it was a 2-year internship. So I stayed there for 2 years. And I went thinking that I was going to do acting. Well, I quickly discovered that acting for film and acting for stage is 2 different things, and I do not like being on film. So switched that and went to doing production management and producing. And then we met there. He graduated a year before I did, so I was there a second year. And
She was like, whoa. Look at this dork.
yes, I thought that he was a major nerd.
His hairstyles back then were really good.
Oh, super
No,
awesome.
no. I didn't have good hairstyle back then. It was short.
It was short. It was like a buzz cut.
It wasn't the
And
Bieber
then-
haircut.
It was after that.
Yeah. And then, if you think this was like mid 2000s, the where you did the collar underneath the t-shirt, the button up and then
the flannel.
I'm glad I
Yeah,
missed that.
this
I
was-
was only 6 when that happened.
that was my go-to.
Okay.
That was my
Way to
go-to.
make
I
me
am
feel
glad I
old,
missed
yeah.
that there.
Yeah, and then later on he got the swoopy hair. And I was like,
That's what really brought you in.
okay, you got the hair going.
Hey, once
Let's
I
go.
started growing the beard, so I started growing a really gross beard.
Yeah.
And then, but I had the
Not a
Bieber hair,
great
which
stage.
took care of the beard.
Yeah. It just moved the eyes up just a little bit.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Oh.
So, anyways, we met, ended up getting married, and quickly get pregnant with Chloe.
Yep.
And I was wanting, like, I'd already had a job set up. I was going to be a producer in Dallas for a news station, and I was super excited. And then I find out that I'm pregnant. And in film and television, most jobs, you're going to intern for
free
weeks, 2 months to make sure that you know what you know.
for free.
Whoa.
And so you work for free.
That's
This
interesting.
is like kind of it's a film thing that happens.
Well, it kind of sounds like the sports industry. They'll pay
wanna
like
make
the
sure.
lowest possible because
Yep.
if you won't do it,
Someone else is
will.
stepping in to do
Absolutely.
it. And so, another thing with film and television is a lot of the time, like, you can get a degree,
Yeah.
but most people that have it, they don't have actual hands-on experience. They have it here and they've learned
Yeah.
about it in a book, but have you actually done the work? So they
Right.
want to make sure that you're doing everything and know everything.
Yeah.
So got pregnant with Chloe, and I'm like, they're not gonna keep me. Like, they're not gonna put all this time and money into me, and then I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
But it was also a financial decision. You know, I was making $15 an hour, 40 hours a week, and
He was doing
and it wasn't-
construction.
Well, were you guys living in DFW at
we were
this
living
time?
in Weatherford.
Yeah.
At the time.
Weatherford. Okay, so you went back
And
to
I was
your
doing
hometown.
interior home renovations.
Mhm.
We're with a small company, like
Yeah.
really, 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 really small, but it was minimal money.
Yeah.
And so, you know, even to the point where I would go mow grass for $30 because I'm like, okay, I can do this in 45 minutes. That means I'm making about $34 to $36 an hour.
Yeah.
If I do it in 45 minutes. If I do it in an hour, I'm making $30 an hour. But again, it was just once a week.
Yeah.
So
We were
in-
scraping pennies.
in my mind, I'm already looking at, okay, how much is my time worth?
Yeah.
And if I can increase that just by 1 hour a week, what is that going to give me? Okay, that's a monthly payment for electric or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember you actually were kind of mad at me because I was advocating a no. I was like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
And
and
you're
this is
driving
my
to
dream.
Dallas.
You're
Yeah.
taking it away from me, but I knew that I couldn't do it too. I'm like, okay, we don't have the money for gas. Like, I
That
can't
was the big
drive to
thing. We
Dallas
didn't have money for
every
gas.
single day
Mm.
with no pay. I'm pregnant,
Yeah.
and you're making $16 an hour.
15.
Like
15.
15, sorry. So the math just didn't work. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, we'll scrape that, put it on the back burner. We have Chloe, and we start, just trying to make it. I mean, we're hustling.
The
but
wasn't because we had Chloe.
I was
Chloe was
thinking you were
amazing.
saying,
It was
"Oh,
just the
I had
moment of our life where we
Yeah.
were
It was
We
in
end up-
09 when she came.
Yeah.
And it was
So we're in Colorado.
selling roofs.
So now you're in Colorado. You moved from DFW to Colorado.
We still have an apartment
our
here.
homestead is still in Fort Worth. Like,
Okay.
we have an apartment in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
But his sister was like, hey, they still have their company at the
Yeah.
time. And they're like, hey, we're doing like a roofing storm division in Colorado. You can make all this money. And we're like, well, I
Work
mean,
was
this
slow.
sounds
This
like
was right
a really
after
great.
08.
Yeah,
So work was
so
slow.
nobody's doing
Smaller
anything.
company, right? Work was slow. So it was another guy that didn't have much in his life.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't get fired. It was, give him an opportunity because this opportunity arose for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him stay so that I could probably still go do this. It just didn't turn out.
So, anyways, we end up going to Colorado, knocking on doors. I'm either pregnant with Chloe or had just had her.
Wow.
Like, whatever. We've been married. So we got married October 26th, 08.
2 days after us.
You're welcome.
Well,
good
except
time.
2020. This is a little bit later.
All right. And then, you've already told us that we're old, okay?
Just Cody. Just Cody.
We
Okay,
did
yeah.
it during swine flu, not COVID. So.
So we get married October 26th, 08.
Yeah.
We have Chloe October 28th, 09. So we've literally been married a year
Wow.
and 2 days.
I'm in Colorado. She can't be in Colorado
travel.
for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks of her
Yeah.
pregnancy. So I'm like, if the baby goes, we don't have the money. It didn't work out there. We were behind
It
on
was horrible.
bills. I remember having $6 to our name and being so mad that I went to a grocery store to get ice cream to wallow in my sorrows, right? And we turn on the news and there's someone that got murdered because it was a bad part of Colorado.
We were in
Or
Aurora.
Now it's better. Aurora's better.
Yeah.
But the thing is like people were getting murdered in our hotel that we were staying at, extended stay, and it was just not conducive to
A brand new baby.
a family.
We've been married
And
for
a brand new
year,
marriage. Yeah.
Exactly.
and we're just trying to make it.
So she leaves and
I was done.
And-
I'm like, I'm done living in this hotel. We have a newborn baby. We're not making money. Like, I don't want to knock on, because we were going and doing the work. We were knocking the doors. Like,
going
we
on
actually,
Craigslist finding paint sprayers so I could do the work so I can get paid because I wasn't getting
This
paid.
sounds crazy, right? I think
Oh,
back
yeah.
and go, I would never do this right now in my life. But we were desperate and
Yeah.
we were young. So Chloe was like maybe a month old, and we were doing insurance work. So we had sold this house, and the exterior paint, the insurance had paid to get it redone.
Yep.
So we found a spray on Craigslist. Me and him go out, and we're going to spray this house. The homeowner says, we'll babysit the baby. So Chloe's in the house.
Yeah.
This older lady is watching Chloe. She's like a month old. And we're
Super
outside
awesome lady.
spraying the house together just so that we can make an extra whatever we were
like
making.
$800.
$800.
So we could just pay bills.
Yeah.
We were writing checks. This is before direct deposit or Zelle or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
We were writing checks through my credit union up in Minnesota. I still have the account there. And but the checks, you had 7 days to be
This
able
was before
to
direct deposit where you could take a picture of your check and it would be in there. You
Yeah.
had to
you
mail
had to
the
mail
check
it.
to
So
the
we
bank.
would take a check, write a hot check, send it to the bank, and hope that we would get enough money in 7 days to
cover it. Just so we could eat.
Wow.
So that was like our first year of marriage. It was super fun.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, how was that on you guys, marriage-wise? Was it?
Well, we weren't around each other a lot because
We were
she was
hustling.
pregnant and
Yeah.
I was out trying to work and she was taking care of the baby. And then we ended up taking her sister who was getting into some things that weren't necessary. All right.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. Drugs and
Yeah.
different things in the wrong crowd. And so she came and lived with us. So we're taking
the
care
hotel.
of her. We don't have
Oh
money
my gosh.
Then
Right.
his sister comes.
and lives in the same hotel because she's doing the same work. Right.
She's
Knocking
going to
on
knock doors.
And it was just it was a moment of our life that was like, what are we doing, right? And
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, I'm a man, I'm supposed to be providing, and I'm not, even though I was doing everything that I could.
We were hustling.
and
but
we were making money, we just weren't getting paid.
Yeah.
And when you work for a family, it's very tough.
Yeah.
And so while certain people were on vacations doing different things, people weren't getting paid, suppliers weren't getting paid, and that company went bankrupt. My sister's company went from number 135 to bankruptcy within like 2-3 years.
Do you think that was because of
100%.
08?
It was 100% not because of 08. It was 100% because they went out and tried expanding
grew too fast and
where they
trusted too
hired
many
people
That they
that
didn't
they
know.
never met and just said, "Oh, you're viable option. Let's go."
Yeah.
And here's a company credit card, right? And I now my guys have company credit cards, but I know them.
Yeah.
Like I've known
Right.
them for 15 years.
And
right?
it texts me every time that card gets swiped.
So
Yeah.
again, it was definitely an interesting time. She just basically said,
I'm
"I'm
done.
leaving. If you want to come, then you can go ahead."
I'm
And
like,
so
I'm packing the
so,
car.
so you
I'm
were
taking
good.
Chloe.
Were you good if he just didn't come?
she
I
wasn't
mean,
going to
I
divorce
wanted him
me,
to.
but
No, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going back to my apartment. We're going to find jobs
Yeah.
and we're done with this. I'm
Yeah.
to here, done.
So we ended up
we were living in a hotel room.
grabbing
I mean,
the
it was-
last, like we had enough money to get back in our
Ultima.
Nissan Altima. We bought on Craigslist because we had all this. We had a paint sprayer and we had all this baby stuff that we brought to Colorado over short trips.
Swings and I mean, we
So
were
we bought
living
this ski carrier thing.
Yeah.
there. The turtle
We
shell.
didn't have a roof rack, so we just roped it to the top.
No,
Not
you
kidding.
did.
Through the windows. The windows bled air the whole time home. And we put all the stuff in it, and we had all 5 of us in the car. 4 of us. 1, 2,
Rachel was with
4,
us.
4 of us.
No.
And I remember getting to a certain spot, we filled up with fuel, and we had like $6 to our name. So we went to Jack in the Box and Walmart.
50-cent tacos.
Got 50-cent tacos, and that was it. We were capped out. Our credit cards were maxed. Everything was maxed out. And I called my sister, and I was like, listen, you owe me this much money. It was like $14,000. I said, if I just get my bills paid up to date,
Yeah.
which is like $3,200, you can have the rest. She goes, done. So she paid me, stroked a check, and I got paid. We got back up to date with our bills, and then
Yeah.
we just went back and started working for that same guy again because work started picking up. But I was still only making that 15 an hour, so it was adventurous. Let's put it that way.
Wow. I know we've hung out a bunch. I don't think I've ever heard that story
Yeah.
that deep. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So you guys are living back in Weatherford now.
Yep.
You started working for your old boss. What did you start?
Side note, we're in Weatherford and the water heater leaks, and we couldn't live there. And while
Oh, yeah,
we're
it
having,
was
we already had
molded.
the baby, there was all this mold, and we're like, we're not, they just literally spray painted. We have the picture still over the mold. They didn't do any remediation, anything.
I was pregnant, and I'm like, my husband's a contractor. I know enough to know that this is stupid.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
So they were able to let us out of our lease, but we had to go find a new place in Fort Worth. And anyway, it was just a lot
super fun first year of marriage.
Yes.
Talk about a
Do
lot
not
of
recommend.
I wouldn't say a lot of ups. I'd say a lot of downs.
A lot of
in
adversity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Adversity makes you stronger, right?
Yeah.
True. Very true. So you started working for your old boss, Michelle. Where did you start working then?
So, I mean,
Babysitting.
yeah, I had a
Mom.
baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I did babysit other kids. They would come to my house, and then I would I had a couple kids that I would go and pick up from school and take them to their house and watch them until their parents got home or whatever. Anything that I could make a couple dollars, while still having a baby.
Yeah.
And so that's what we
You bake
did.
Cakes. She would
Yeah,
bake cakes.
I would decorate cakes.
So that's where the
and-
baking came from right there.
No, she did baking.
did that a lot.
Homeschooling,
Yeah.
you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I decorated cakes and yeah, I mean, really any side job that I could do. And I mean, like I said, I would go and do construction with him.
No, not now. You
not
didn't.
at that point, but once before Chloe got there, and then after she was about 2-3 years old,
An opportunity opened up with her brother, who was a mover at the time.
Yeah.
Met a client who wanted a bunch of stuff moved in a house that was in Weatherford. It was built in 1892. The family originally owned it, had it built back then, and it never switched hands.
Whoa.
So if you can
time
imagine,
capsule.
everything on
So
the
fun.
inside was still original. Everything from the toys that the kid played with when he was born
And he's
in
90.
1925
Wow.
was still there. The
You-
World War II chest that we found, the pants that we found with the dollar bill still in the pants, and a movie stub from World War II, right? And he was a state-sized photographer. And so it was this really cool opportunity. But the point is, he said, hey, Michelle, come over, help clean, because he fell and he went into hospice. And in order to do hospice, the house had to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And so therein lies my opportunity to come in and fix the shower to make it ADA compliant. And so I was like, I'll just do this on the side. And this is, again, shortly after, not even 8 months after we came back from Colorado. And so I was like, I remember being with my boss at this time, and a mistake was made on a job, and he made me go after work and pay for, it wasn't me, but I'm not a licensed plumber, and he was making me do plumbing, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea at the time. And so anyway, we did this, it was leaking under the shower, so I had to go after work. But I remember driving home from Mineral Wells and being on the phone with this homeowner, this potential client. And she's like, well, how much? And I'm going, $35 an hour. I'm like, I just shot a number. And she goes, okay, when can you start? So it's just going to be a weekend thing. I'm like,
And he calls me and he's like, Michelle,
you wouldn't believe
I'm making $35 an hour.
We
I'm
struck
like,
it rich.
hot dog. Let's go.
But it was a weekend thing. So I'm like, hey, let's
Yeah.
go take a look at the house. And I've never been there. And so we start looking. I'm like, let me get under the house. Again, pier and beam, 3 stories. And
3 stories.
the attic
pier and
was
beam
giant.
house.
But it's 2 stories, but the attic was huge.
It's
Had
like a
staircase.
Victorian
Wow.
mansion.
Gorgeous.
Really
Gorgeous.
cool.
On like a half a city block in Weatherford. Just beautiful.
Wow.
They used to own the funeral home there, and there's a lot of cool stories in history with these people, but we didn't know, right? We're just like, okay, it's a job. Get under the roof or under the house, and there's like a 4 or 5 foot crawl space, and there's no sewer lines. They're all missing. They're all rotted, and they had no idea. So again, mind you, I'm not a plumber,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I know enough, and I'm like,
And Texas plumbing is different than Minnesota plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Construction is different from those two very
so
different states.
we
Yeah.
end up. I'm like, I'm quitting my job. I told her, I said, there's about 2 months worth of work. Let's take it.
And then
so-
they hired me to come in and start organizing and cleaning the house and getting things ready for him to come back
I
home.
think she was
Wow.
making
So
like
I was
20 or
making 20.
25.
Yeah.
And so together we went from 16, because I got a raise, 16 an hour,
Yeah.
to almost $60 an hour.
And we're like,
that. And we're like,
what
okay, we can do
is
this. Let's see
happening?
what. And she's always wanted to push me to do my own business.
I'm like, you can do this.
But I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't do
Yeah.
this. Like I don't know where the work's going to come from, and so on and so forth.
Because he had no connections here. He knew no one.
Yeah.
I've lived
Right.
here my whole life.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
It's tough.
for
Yeah.
sure.
It's
And so
tough.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I know people. Like, we could do this. And he's like, I know no one.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we did that. I quit my job and then got a raise offer from my old boss, and
I'm
you
like,
know,
don't
but,
go back.
But I look back and like even those moments in Colorado, those moments with my parents building a log house and doing siding and windows as a young foreman of a company driving forever, waking up at 4:30, all those things, like they made me who I am and the knowledge that I have. And to this day, I still go back to those people and I say, thank you for the opportunity that I had to learn. I got paid to learn. I didn't pay to go to school. Yeah. I got paid to learn. It wasn't a lot, but I got paid. Right? And if you look at it that way, it becomes this different mentality. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of struggles, but I mean, ever since then, it was just little jobs here and there, mostly from her people in her sphere of circle. And then even just some of my people. And then all of a sudden the referrals started coming. And then we were like, oh, we need to build a website. I mean, the company was called Lil Abner Remodeling.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Did it start at Big Tex?
No, it was Lil Abner because we're like the cartoon character.
Yeah.
We're like, who has money? Old people.
Well, and we weren't planning on building a business either. So we're like, I think we're building a business. What do we do?
Yeah.
Like, I think you need a business card, and I think I need to make like a hat for you.
I still have the hat.
And
so back then you guys went to like Kinko's, right?
Oh, you know it. Yeah.
Is Kinko even still around?
It's one of those hats that you find on the floor and you're like, oh, this would be good, right? And like,
and like, you know, the already made logo and all the things.
The hammer in the house. So lame.
Yeah. And so he was in a little Altima doing his
No. My first construction vehicle as Lil Abner Remodeling was a 99 Chevy Cavalier.
That's right.
I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry.
We'll get a picture for you. We have a picture.
That was 5 years after
I
was born.
Okay. And the car is just stuffed. I mean, the back seat is like, you know,
just filled with tile saws and shop vacs and supplies and so I mean in the beginning it was her and I that would do the work. Most of the time she was still taking care of the baby, and then
I would get out
later on I ended up getting a box truck, and my sister is the one that gave me the loan. Who had the big company? Yeah, and so it was really cool. Again, still pivotal moments. We couldn't afford it, but yeah, that's kind of how Big Tex. And just one day, I remember it was before remember when Big Tex at the state fair caught fire? Were you old enough then?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah. I wasn't there. It was definitely in Oklahoma at that time,
but he caught fire, and it was like 2 weeks prior that happening. We created the name Big Tex Renovations. I'm like, hey, Big Tex. I'm not from Texas.
But then it just blew up because people were
calling me
Big
because
Tex.
of searching for Big Tex. And
our SEO was pulling up. They're like, well, we were looking for Big Tex, like the state fair Big Tex, but your website showed up. And so we're like, thank you, Big Tex. Can someone else light him up? No, I'm just kidding. But like
was it really?
We really, don't tell anyone. But we really did like just grow from that. And, you know, back in the day, we were paying for like lead services where, you know, oh, you have a leaky faucet. And then it sends out to like 3 different contractors. And if your phone called,
first one to answer
you answered it, and you had to be at the job.
Yeah.
So we did that for a while, and we're like, this is just not.
No, the Lord told me to quit advertising.
That's where I was getting to.
Okay, sorry, I blew up.
Yeah. See, he likes to take all my stories. And so he came to me and he's like, I think we need to stop advertising. And me, I'm the film marketing person. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, then how are we going to get jobs? Like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like, why would we stop advertising? Yeah. And he's like, no, I really think we're supposed to stop advertising. And I'm like, well, okay.
Well, it's funny because I didn't listen for like 3 months. And usually a holiday slow down for a lot of in this industry, right? Yeah. And it did, but I didn't listen. And so when I did finally in January. Doors. Yeah, we spent so much money on flyers and
I'm pushing. I've got Ellie. So Ellie's been born at this point. Yeah. So Ellie, I have strapped in my chest. You know, I'm like wearing her. Yeah. And Chloe's in the stroller, and we are walking the streets, hanging flyers on people's doors. Just trying, like, we were doing Christmas lights. We were knocking doors for roofs. Whatever we could get, we were out there hustling. And that's the thing that people don't. They never saw that.
They see what's going on now.
They see what we're here now, and they're like, oh, my gosh, it must be nice. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't see us 10 years ago when we had $0 in our account, And it was me and him. We were the ones bringing the jobs in. We were the ones doing the jobs. I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, so he convinces me we're not going to advertise anymore. And so that was scary.
Yeah.
And then our phone started ringing. And then it kept ringing.
Never
And he
stopped.
kept getting bigger jobs and better jobs. And it wasn't a $5,000 kitchen. It was a $20,000 kitchen. And then the $20,000 was an $80,000 kitchen. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, this is so cool. So anyways, we get in with a bunch of like different realtors and stuff, and they start referring him.
Yeah.
And at this point, Ellie's been born. I'm pregnant with Malachi. And
Love Malachi. Malachi's
cutest.
awesome.
he's my buddy. And
Kid.
he's so cute.
Real quick, yesterday he was annoying the snot out of his sisters by just making all sorts of noises. And
As
then
a
I'm
little
like,
brother
Malachi,
should.
you got to stop. And he goes, what? I'm cute.
Who did
I'm
he
like,
get that
bro,
from?
Bro.
Yeah, it's so funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah.
he's a mess. So
Precious.
I'm like, I really think I should get my real estate license.
We were giving
Yeah.
away
so many
referrals.
deals.
Yeah.
And we just started seeing the money that you
Oh.
could get as a realtor. And I said, even if you just get your real estate license for just Big Tex,
Just to close the
Right.
deals that we have.
Yeah.
those referrals, I'm like, that's $2,500. That's this. That's it. And even at this point with Big Tex, we weren't doing a lot of volume. I was still doing a lot of work myself. And so anyway, that's kind of how the real estate gig got started.
Yeah, so I started doing school online, hated it. Worst thing ever. And then this was before Malachi was born. And then had Malachi in February of 16.
We bought a house, had Malachi.
Yeah, bought a house October of 15. Remodeled it, couldn't live in it. It was not inhabitable. So we lived in our camper for 6-8 weeks. Every day I'm in there painting. He's working still physically on the job. So me and my dad are like demoing the whole house, painting and doing all the things. And I'm like, this pregnant.
Yeah.
And then
So-
I'd come home from work and work until about 2 a.m.
And he'd come in
spraying.
and we would get everything prepped, and he would come in like spray the cabinets or spray this or whatever. And then we've got still 2 littles, like Chloe and
Yeah.
Ellie are like 3 and 6. So we buy the house, have Malachi in February. July comes, and so Cody got bit by a copperhead. 16 was super fun. Chloe broke her arm. He gets
my
bit by a
gosh.
copperhead in our front yard. Sends him to the ER.
Wow.
All the fun things. And so I'm driving the car because he can't because of his foot. And he looks over and he's like, what's that lump on your neck? And I'm like, I don't know. And I grabbed it and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And so go into the doctor, find out that I have thyroid cancer. And then that was like a whole thing. So that put my real estate license on the back burner.
Yeah.
And so did treatment for like 2 years, got that all cleared up. It's good to go. And I'm like, I'm getting my real estate license. So I actually went to school, and it was amazing. Like, I don't know why I spent all that time on online real estate school.
Yeah.
So if you're getting your real estate license, if you are a creative and need to have actual people around you,
Yeah.
don't do online school.
Yeah.
So did that, got my license, and never looked back. And so I love it. It's super fun. And then going back to the film days, like I said, or FBI days, I love research. I love being nosy, and that's all real estate really is just knowing your stuff and
Yeah.
digging and researching and figuring out what's happening with these properties or
Yeah.
whatever and people. And so it's really fun. I love it. I love the
a good
people. I love
Yeah.
that I get to go and look at fun houses, the stories that we come up with. And then we get to work together now. He doesn't really he's not on site a lot of the time, so he does more of the sales and everything.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the time we come as a package deal. And so,
Yeah.
so now we're just doing our thing.
Yeah.
It's
So
been
there
fun.
you go.
So that was our really long short story.
That's a good one.
So
It's
sorry.
I'm
really
glad
good.
we've got to one question soon.
It probably covered like 18 of them.
It
so.
did.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
did. I think
So-
we're probably going to jump into the deeper questions now.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So when it comes to you, Cody, if you could go back and during that time that everything was really tough, what's one thing that you would tell yourself?
Man, that's a hard one because I didn't know much then.
Yeah.
And so would I have listened? I think that's the hard part is we didn't have many people. We were talking about this morning. We didn't have many people to mentor us.
Yeah.
And even now it's hard to find that. And so we always feel like we're mentoring others, and it's like we're always pouring. But God's given us this ability to have that energy and that momentum to do that still. And but yeah, the one thing I'd probably say is don't give up
Yeah.
Can you imagine
because it was hard.
what you would have done if you would have given up? I mean, to look back, I mean, if you think about it, like the gospel and, being saved, like it's just a great reminder of where you were to where you are now. Like in that instance too, like, man, where you guys started to where you are now, it's night and day.
I think
Oh,
there's just moments of when, I always look back and I call them God trophies.
Yeah.
Right. It's a trophy that God's given us as a family collectively.
Yeah.
That allows us to look back and remember this. You came through this.
Yeah.
2016 sucked. Cancer, snake bite, new baby, right? We just moved into this house. Da 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 da. And it was one of the best years that we had. And people that came around us and surrounded us
Yeah.
to say, you still need to run a business. You still need to run, get a family and maintain that. And so, but yeah, just don't give up. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Do you feel like you guys have like made it to like your I've made it moment?
No, I think we're
just talking about this too.
Yeah, we talk
Yeah.
about stuff all the time. I'm like, there's always room to improve. There's always room
Yeah.
to get to the next level. Did we ever think that we would even be at this point?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's so fun. I think that's the thing is that we wake up every morning going, we get to do this. Like,
Yeah.
not we have to, that, oh my gosh, I hate my job. I hate doing this. I'm like, no, like every time I get a call for real estate, I get excited. I'm like, sweet, where are we going? What are we doing? And it doesn't get old. And I think that's one fun thing about real estate is that
Yeah.
there's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Every single day is different.
Yeah.
You never know that next call could be your $1 million moment, or it could be a first time home buyer, or, we have a lot of older clients that are, losing their spouses or whatever, and they call us knowing that we're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
We're going to go repair their house. We're going to get it ready to sell or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so we've got so many relationships. And like, at Christmas time, we always send out Christmas cards. I do it every single year. I've made it a point to do that. And it's always so cute. We're still getting, like, even yesterday, one of our clients sent us a card. It's January 25th or whatever. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You poking me?
So another question. So and I think this is kind of for both of you. What is your definition of success in your industry and in your industry? For your definition, not the world's definition. What's your definition?
Yeah.
You want to answer that first?
I don't know. You're poking me. So.
I know. I just think you're cute.
He's not used to me talking. He's the talker. And so I think that he doesn't like me taking the microphone.
No, that's why I'm saying you go ahead. Go ahead.
You shut me down, bud. Go ahead.
Repeat that question, please, Alex.
What is your definition of success in your industry?
That's a good one. I think the biggest thing that I look at is there is no competition. There's enough work out there wherever you go.
Yeah.
You just have to be ambitious to find it. So I think success to me is always having that mindset and that mentality that no matter the circumstance, it's out there.
Yeah.
You just got to find it. You got to hustle.
Yeah.
I think it's cool having that no scarcity mindset too, and just knowing like, okay, I missed out on this job, but I know the Lord's going to provide a job for me that's meant for me.
It's also confidence. If you reek of confidence, if you show confidence, not arrogance,
Yeah.
it's different. Confidence. If you show that, people see that and they want that.
Yeah.
They want to be around that. They want that in their home. That's my opinion.
I think even yesterday we were talking to my brother-in-law, and we were just kind of talking about money and different things. And one thing that we always say is that money's only a tool, and that how fun it is to wake up and not go, I got to go find that paycheck. I got bills to pay.
Yeah.
If I don't get these paid this month, we're done, you know?
Yeah.
And having that as a tool, and now going, what can we do with this?
But
How can we grow it? What do we, and not having that scarcity where it's like, I'm just living for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The success is we get to use that money and we get to give it away. We get someone has a need, we can throw it there and never blink an eye.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've always wanted to do. And I think that is, I think that's success.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
getting to be able to share what we know, not just monetarily, but getting to mentor others, getting to talk to people and share what we've learned through the hard times and the good times. I think that's success.
No, I love that. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna steal that.
I didn't get poked for it. Look at that.
I had a call yesterday from a contractor friend that I met at a hangar get together, right? I'm a pilot for fun, and we were just there, and he's a younger guy, and he started a roofing construction company this year, and man, he called me all the time,
Yeah.
and it was, hey, I have this question. How do you read this? What's this? What's that? What should I do?
Yeah.
And but even talking about his personal struggles with trying to get his medical, because he has ADHD because of medicine and whatever, he couldn't get his medical to be a pilot. So, but you know what he's doing? He's still going out and flying because he's like, I'm going to get this, and he's working at it. And he called me yesterday to say, man, and I'm not that close with him, but when he calls, I answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is like, there is enough work out there. I'm going to help him
Yeah.
Yeah.
because guess what? At some point in time, it's going to come back, and I don't expect it, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's his parents or his friend or maybe some person that he knows that we have yet to meet, right? And so he calls me yesterday. He's like, for all of this, I just appreciate you for doing and taking the time and just being in my corner. And he goes, we're looking for an acre or more. I want Michelle. I want to use Michelle. I know a lot of realtors, but I want to use Michelle because you guys helped us.
That's awesome.
And that's
Wow.
going to be a small little nugget. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, what if he finds that and and again, through that, he'll use Michelle. What if he uses me as the builder? What if he uses Michelle, me, and then all of a sudden we need insurance and we need a more, you know what I'm saying? Like it's that there is no competition.
Right.
Just be good at what you're doing, excellent at what you're doing, and be confident. And it's just gonna come.
And we've always said, we're like, our business is a relationship business.
100%.
And that's what it's all about is
Yeah.
relationship.
Yep.
You have the relationships built, everything else comes.
Yeah.
We're a relationship company that remodels houses.
Sure.
We're a relationship company
love
that
that.
sells houses.
Yeah.
We're a relationship company that does all the things. I mean, one of our first clients was the one who took care of our girls while I had cancer, and she did it for nothing. I'm like,
Who does
just
that?
the people that we've met and come in contact
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
there are people.
Yep.
And that's what we want to be as a company of people. And then all the business stuff is just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. So what would you guys say for your goals, like 5-year, 10-year goals, the rest of your life goals? What kind of goals do you guys have for your businesses, for your family, and just pretty much everything?
My goal is I want to create not just a business, but an actual company that I can sell. So
Okay.
that in the last
Scalable.
scale it. And so in the last year and a half, we've created a program to be able to allow that, to make that happen where I can sell it, because so many people in this industry just work
Yeah.
and they work and they work and they work. I don't have a retirement plan. Not saying financially we do, we put away, we're very diversified.
Yeah.
But the idea is I don't want to be like my parents, and I love my parents, but I don't want to be in a position where I can't go buy a pair of jeans and I got to hopefully wait for the next check. Right. And that's not how I want to live. I want to leave a legacy for my kids, but I want my kids not to just get finances. I want them to earn it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I make them earn their stuff. And it's like, because I don't want them to create a new legacy of, oh, just because my parents did well and they had success, we just automatically get it.
Yeah.
And so I think that in itself, like, I want to grow something for the company to be able to sell it at some point. So I would say, 10 years from now, let's try to sell it for 10 million. I'd love it.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Family, like what we're doing right now, we're just talking about this again.
We're having so much fun. I'm like, if I knew that in 15 years ago, Michelle knew that right now we would have 3 kids that we go and hang out with them all the time. We're at their school all the time. We get to just, like, I was telling my broker this the other day. She's like, what are your goals for this year? I'm like, can I tell you honestly? My honest goal is I want to be present with my kids whenever they need me because we only have them for a couple of years. I'm like, Chloe's 14. That means we only have 4 more years of her in school, which is crazy to even think about.
Yeah.
Like, in 4 years, we're going to have a senior and she's going to be gone.
Yeah.
And so, like,
giving them opportunity as parents that are readily available for them.
Yeah.
Because we've done youth ministry for years, for 15, 16 years. And you see the ones that don't have parents that are involved, and you see the ones that have parents that are involved. And it's